So Callie Hayes covers all things tech and social media for Business Insider, which means her life oftentimes is overwhelmed by the bizarre world of Elon Musk. So, okay, Callie, I guess we start there. You're going to tell everyone, because you cover this for a living, I'm not sure the average person, their eyes don't glaze over now when they hear Elon Musk and scandal. So explain to everyone the latest Elon Musk scandal, and then we'll talk about whether or not this is real damage for his businesses.
Okay, sure. So definitely that is the case. A lot of people are it's getting to a point where there's like an Elon Musk news cycle exhaustion. But on Wednesday, he responded to a pretty blatantly anti-Semitic tweet saying it was the actual truth, quote unquote. And the tweet basically said, it was kind of long. It was like, maybe 150 words, something like that. A couple paragraphs, but it basically just said that Jewish communities were pushing, quote, hatred against whites, after supporting, again, this is a quote, hordes of minorities who don't like them. And that basically the situation with Israel-Palestine that was happening now was like a comeuppance of sort. And Musk vociferously agreed with this take. And then throughout the day yesterday, he also promoted and agreed with very openly and directly some other tweets by pretty random Twitter users, putting forward reverse racism theories, claims that white people are now being prejudiced against more than communities of color, things of that nature.
Yeah. Okay. So let's start with Twitter or X. So to use a football term, it's as if the guy is tanking the business. He's in the advertising business, and you couldn't do anything more idiotic. Now, I'm separating out his personal feelings, and then you can comment on whether or not you think it's him retweeting this stuff continually means the anti-Semitic label should stick and does stick. There's that part, but I'm talking about just the business now. I don't know how an advertiser could stay there.
It's gotten to a point where even some of the bigger advertisers that were very committed and very willing to continue to advertise on X or Twitter have finally sort of put up their hands like, dude, we can't do this anymore. Those being IBM, Apple just pulled out today. These are both companies that really kind of stayed out of the fray, just treated it like any other platform. It's pretty cheap, Twitter, to advertise on. It always kind of has been. It's not like everybody's go-to platform. It's like more of an afterthought where you spend some extra advertising dollars you might have for the quarter or the half year. So they were happy to keep doing it because it was efficient for them, easy, et cetera. But now it's just gotten to a point, really because of Musk, that it's no longer a place where they feel comfortable pretending like it's just another ad platform for them. So it's pretty bad. And it's been bad. And this is part of the reason why he brought in his new CEO, Lindy Yaccarino, but she's been pretty ineffective in doing the number one thing she needed to do to get advertisers back on board with Twitter or X, which is rein in Elon Musk. If anything, it seems like he's gotten worse over the past few months.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, explain him. Explain this is not a stupid person.
Right.
This is a person that probably doesn't want to lose, maybe you'll correct me, doesn't want to lose $44 billion, but is doing a very nice job of burning through $44 million pretty quickly. So why? How could someone, I can't even believe I'm going to bring this up, but Kanye West goes down in publicity flames, business flames, by similar things.
Totally.
Does Elon Musk follow that path? If so, why? And if not, why?
Well, there's a few things about Elon that I think make him different from Kanye West. He's, a white man who's incredibly wealthy. Exponentially wealthier than Kanye West. He's somebody that's been regarded as a genius businessman for, 20 years now, something like that. Outside of all that, I mean, with Tesla alone, he's made a lot of people a lot of money. They're very hesitant to turn on him in any way. That includes, some incredibly powerful people in the financial industries around the world, manufacturing industries around the world. So he's orders of magnitude more powerful than somebody like Kanye West. He's also orders of magnitude, I think, more famous than somebody like Kanye West. He's this weird composite of just wildly famous celebrity and wildly wealthy individual and wildly successful business person. So all of those things combined, I think, make him special in a lot of ways. And it's difficult for a lot of people to just dismiss him out of hand as, oh, he's crazy. Oh, who would ever deal with him? There's just so many factors supporting his success because he's been a part of so many successes for other people. But I mean, I think, there's a lot of theories about Musk and, how he's playing 4D chess with Twitter and how this is all part of the plan, et cetera, et cetera. My personal feeling is, the simplest answer tends to be the right one. And he just has some genuine issues and he has some genuine grievances with some very personal things, some things that have expanded or grown, in popularity in society and among young people. And he lacks impulse control.
Yeah.
It's just really kind of as simple as that. He's used to being right.
Right. I've wondered about that because, you've heard, you do this all the time. Well, this is a mad genius. It's all strategic, blah, 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 blah. But is he, I like to say that social media kind of outs stupid and it outs racist. Is he that impulsive that he's just like any other knucklehead, that it just can't help himself, even if it's going to mean that he crushes a $44 billion business?
I think he is that impulsive. And I also think he's just so used to winning and having his things always be successful, no matter how hard they were or how many people said you can't do this, he takes it as a badge of honor, that Tesla almost went bankrupt and he fixed it, basically. I think he saw this as like a similar sort of trajectory, but it's just a business that he's basically just in over his head. He doesn't understand the business. He doesn't appreciate the nuances of advertisers. He didn't appreciate when he bought it that this is an advertising business. And he basically had a boss to answer to, which was all the advertisers that make Twitter a business.
Yeah, but he can't be, you don't have to be a marketing expert to appreciate the connection between audience and advertisers and the medium. Adidas did what it did with Kanye West, reluctantly, I'm sure, because he was a big part of the business, because it was bad for business. There's no way now, as you know, once these things start, you can't be IBM, you can't be Apple and have the audience go, oh, yeah? Well, you're with him. It's so it's going to snowball, of course, and I guess it already has. How can he be that clueless or not care? Or which one is it?
I think it's more that he doesn't care.
Okay.
He is just someone who is so used to not only getting his way, but actually, creating the way. Like, if that makes any sense. It's just he's used to bullying his way to success, more or less. So no one gets to tell him no. Even in his various places of work, it's just most of the people who are the most successful around him, a big part of their job is kind of coddling him and making sure he's getting, good information every day. It's sort of to just deal with his moods and his reactions. So it's like it's a very good example of an executive who is really just repeatedly told what he wants to hear because people are afraid of how he's going to react. And so, I mean, I think the same thing happened with Twitter, where he's like, oh, bro, you got this. You know, this is great. You're going to crush it. You're going to fix this business. And it's just, he's been pushed back so hard by advertisers because they make social media and media go round. And he's always had kind of an open disdain for them, and it just doesn't work.
So the business is ruined? The business. I'm not saying the medium itself. I mean, we're all still there and we like to chat, and there's a bunch of bros who are probably anti-Semites as well, you know, sharing comments. But as a business, is it toast?
I think it's definitely right at the line of being pretty much done already. I mean, I was just talking to a couple of advertisers yesterday. They were just like, one person who has his own agency was just like, I really can't stress enough to you how Twitter isn't even considered as an option anymore, and hasn't been for like maybe the past 2 quarters at least. Other people are just, you know, really wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. And it would take a lot of rehabbing at this point to get people to consider it again as a place to advertise.
Okay.
The serious people, big brands, you know, that's what I'm talking about. Of course, there's like the little weird weed gummy ads on there all the time and everything. But
yeah. Okay, so let's pivot to another part that is equally as fascinating. So I think a pretty good case can be made that there is not an executive as much as the face of the franchise, maybe since Steve Jobs, and even then I'm not sure Steve Jobs and Apple is a fair comparison. Tesla is Elon Musk, or Elon Musk is Tesla. Is that fair to say? And if so, when does this idiotic behavior on X start to hurt Tesla?
I definitely agree that Elon Musk as an individual, as a public personality, is very, very closely associated with Tesla. I mean, it's just, if you have a Tesla, if you're thinking about having a Tesla, if you're an investor in Tesla, if you cover Tesla, I mean, you know who Elon Musk is, you know what he does. You probably like him, or at some point thought that he was really kind of this amazing executive who was doing incredible things. And now people are increasingly frustrated. I was just out today actually for a story, going around to Tesla charging stations just to, you know, get reactions, thoughts from people who actually own Teslas. And, you know, the overwhelming sentiment was, I don't agree with anything he says, of course, but then also, basically, I wish he would just stop doing this. Why does he insist on saying these things? Like, one gentleman was like, I just want to drive my car. I don't want people judging me based on what I'm driving.
But that's
turned into that.
Callie, yeah, I was going to say, that's a real risk? And if that happens and people start feeling like it's untouchable, that it's a terrible stigma because of him, then that kills that business too. Right.
I mean, it's just kind of, it has these, you know, knock-on effects. That's the term that's probably overused in like kind of the tech business world, but it's just, and I was talking to another gentleman too who was sitting in his Model Y. You know, he was just like, he keeps doing this. Like, this is like the third or fourth cycle this year of him saying something just so incendiary or so insane that people feel like they sort of have to sit up and pay attention. And it's like, why is that the case? Why am I being asked how I feel about my car?
Yeah.
Because of the CEO saying something incredibly anti-Semitic. Like, that isn't a situation that these people want to be in. So it kind of becomes a branding issue as well because, you know, you have advertisers fleeing, of course. There are major multinational corporations with ad budgets that are billions of dollars, but now regular people who own your car are being treated as though they're representing something that they shouldn't be. And nobody wants that. Nobody's asking for that when they buy a car. They're not trying to represent an executive or a celebrity.
Yeah, it ruins the buying experience. I mean, it's completely obliterates the reason why you would buy. So when does that start to turn in the bottom line for Tesla? Then, of course, the next follow-up would be, I've asked this of you countless times on stupid things that he's done, but never quite. It's one thing to be a knucklehead. It's another to be regularly saying anti-Semitic things, and Wall Street can't be happy.
Oh, no. They're definitely not happy. I mean, it's getting to a point where this gentleman, Ross Gerber, who's a very long time vociferous Tesla bull. I mean, obsessed with this company. Thinks Elon Musk is a genius. Personally invested. He has a wealth advisory where he has clients invest a lot in Tesla. He is, as of yesterday, genuinely angry.
Yeah.
He is he said he's never in his career seen an executive do so many detrimental things to his company. Just he himself, the individual that is Elon Musk, over and over destroying the brand that he's built. He just doesn't understand it. He thinks that Musk has, effectively not acting as a CEO of Tesla right now, that he is doing nothing in support of Tesla as a brand or a business. And, it's the cars are being discounted. He's coming up on issues with Cybertruck being sort of possibly just a boondoggle. I mean, it's very strange what's going on with that vehicle. And, people are getting upset. Investors are getting upset. Owners are getting upset. People don't want to buy the car anymore. People want to sell their car, but the resale value is so low because there's issues with the battery and the brand. It's just becoming sort of a hurricane of badness. And it's strange because it's a hugely successful company, and it doesn't have to be that way.
Is the bottom line affected soon?
No. I mean, the stock is still pretty high. People are still... Definitely people in the financial markets are willing to accept just about anything as long as your business is still doing well. But once it actually starts impacting, your sales and public perception, especially when you're in a consumer business, which is a car business, then they start getting a little worried. And then that's when you see the stock start to come down. It's tumbled a little bit, but not anything so extreme. But at the end of the year, if Tesla is stuck with millions of cars that it can't sell, that would be a moment where investors would.
Well, and the thing would be, I mean, and it would come right back to him. I mean, I don't think investors would say, "Oh, it's because of the battery," or blah blah blah. They would say because you're a jackass, wouldn't they?
Yeah, it's definitely the excuses of inflation or recession fears or the price. All of that can no longer be the reason. Inflation is stabilizing. The economy is doing fine. There's no other reason than the CEO acting the way he's acting.
So what does he do now publicly? Does he get mad and be more of a nut? Or does he get in his lane and say, oh, man, I better shut up for a little while? How does this play out over the next month or so?
It's a great question. It's always tough covering him because you, as a business reporter, you come to expect certain things, especially of business people, especially of incredibly wealthy people. I mean, to Musk's credit in some ways, he's definitely outspoken. He does not use a script. He does not use media training. He doesn't have a PR firm. It's interesting in a lot of ways because he bucks the trend of the traditional CEO who's incredibly contained, would never say anything that he shouldn't. But if his past behavior, even over just the last 18 months, 2 years, is anything to go by, I mean, I do not see an apology or any kind of mea culpa really forthcoming at all.
I mean, at some point, is this really him? I mean, is he really the guy who keeps sharing these anti-Semitic? I mean, is that him?
I think yes. I don't see any other reason why he would be saying the things that he's saying on Twitter.
Okay.
And he also knows how influential he is.
Yeah.
He revels in it. So there's no reason he would be saying the things that he says, tweeting the things that he tweets repeatedly. This isn't the first time.
Right.
If he didn't actually think these things.
3 months from now, are they still, is Tesla still a good business? And is Twitter viable at all?
Viable, you mean as somebody else coming in and trying to acquire it?
Yeah.
I would say Tesla will, still be a business. The same conversation will probably be going on.
Okay.
The financial community will probably be, annoyed and wondering why he's doing this and that and wishing that he would just stop so the stock could go back up to 700 or whatever they would like. Twitter in 3 months, I think will be, it's tough to say because if it was cheap enough, sure, somebody would try to buy it.
Yeah.
Or somebody would offer to buy it. But it's not cheap enough. I mean, Musk's own internal valuation, which wasn't explained to employees in any way, but this is about 3 weeks ago, a month ago maybe, he said it's worth $19 billion, which is not true.
Right.
That's not true at all. And he issued them RSUs that they can't sell and that there's no plans for them to be able to sell. Nonetheless, he priced those at around $45 a share, which is a very small discount from the amount he paid for them. So it's just, there's some magical thinking going on inside the company for sure. And anybody who is seriously interested in buying Twitter wouldn't really be able to negotiate with somebody like that. They're not going to overpay.
Yeah.
So it's probably sort of in a holding pattern. There could be further, executive shakeups in the coming months, given how poorly Lindy Yaccarino has fared thus far. But I don't think it'll probably be sold.
Every time I talk to you, I think it can't get more bizarre. Every time it gets more bizarre. I mean, it's just...
I know. It's really, it's like the never-ending story.
Is there, I'm trying to think, is there any CEO in our lifetime, there have been characters. John Mackey of Whole Foods, he finds his way into some pretty weird spots sometimes, I think about.
For sure.
But I'm trying to think of anybody even close to this scale as a CEO that just was such a public knucklehead.
I mean, insofar as, Trump can be deemed an executive.
Okay.
I think that's one.
Okay.
But, I mean, otherwise, in terms of just, sheer notoriety, I mean, it's like Jack Welch is really the only one I can think of who so many people know, so many regular people know, who's just really broken through to, a different level of notoriety.
Yeah.
But he was, very much like a businessman. He wasn't spouting off about, how slavery shouldn't be taught in schools.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Jobs was, by every description, a volatile, combative genius, but he wasn't an idiot publicly.
No, he wasn't. People do make this comparison, I think, especially since the Walter Isaacson book came out, because he also did the big book on Jobs.
Right.
But Steve Jobs, insofar as I've read about him, as I've heard about him from, journalists who covered him and met with him years and years ago before he passed away, he was just a totally different kind of animal. He was more of a product design guy, for one thing, less of an engineer. And he was an executive who could be incredibly cruel, incredibly mercurial, but you could tell him negative things without him absolutely losing his mind, right, and firing everybody who was in the room when he was told those negative things. He would promote people who told him bad things, He would promote people who, dared to stand up to him a little bit and ended up being right. It's just a totally different world of the personality that, those two executives are, Musk and Jobs.
Well, until next time, Callie, I'm sure there'll be something else psychotic that happens. And, when I send you an email, go, oh, God, here, I got to talk about this nut again. But it is what it is. Great work as always.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right.